They threw me out like garbage. Not metaphorically, literally threw my belongings into trash bags while I sat in a wheelchair, unable to walk, barely 3 weeks after the accident that should have killed me. But here's the thing about rock bottom. It's the perfect foundation to build an empire. My name is Serena Vance, and I used to believe family meant something. I was wrong. The day it all fell apart started like any other nightmare. I'd been home from the hospital for less than a week, still adjusting to the temporary paralysis in my legs, still processing the fact that my career as a survival expert and mountaineering guide had been put on indefinite hold. The doctors said I might walk again. Might. That word hung over everything like a guillotine blade. I was in my childhood bedroom, the room I'd returned to because I had nowhere else to go after the accident. Physical therapy equipment crowded the space where my trophies used to stand. My mother, Eleanor, had already moved those to the basement. Out of sight, out of mind, I suppose. She never liked clutter, and apparently, evidence of my achievements qualified as such. That morning, I heard them before I saw them. The voices drifted up from the kitchen, sharp and cutting through the old house's thin walls. My mother's voice, always so carefully modulated in public, took on that edge it only had behind closed doors. My brother Derek's laugh followed, that particular bark of derision I'd heard too many times growing up. "We can't keep this up," Eleanor was saying. "The medical bills are astronomical. The physical therapy alone is eating through the savings." "Not our savings," Derek corrected. "Her savings, the ones she's too proud to touch apparently." "Well, she'll have to start touching them soon. I'm not sacrificing our lifestyle for this. Richard, say something." My father's voice was quieter, harder to hear. "What do you want me to say, Eleanor? She's our daughter. She's 30 years old and she should have been more careful. Who goes rock climbing in those conditions? It was reckless and now we're all paying for it." I should have rolled away then, should have given them the privacy to say whatever horrible things they needed to say. But I was frozen, my hands locked on the wheels of my chair, listening to my family dissect my worth like I was already dead. Derek spoke again, his voice taking on that wheedling quality that had always preceded him asking me for money. "Look, I need that spare room for my home office. The promotion is practically guaranteed, but I need to set up a proper workspace. Serena can't even get up the stairs by herself. It's not practical." "It's more than impractical." Eleanor agreed. "It's impossible. Every day it's something new. We can't carry her up and down. We're not young anymore. And frankly, Derek, you're right. We need to think about the future." "Your future?" "So, what are we saying here?" My father's voice held a note of something, maybe discomfort, maybe just exhaustion. "We're saying," Eleanor declared with the finality of a judge's gavel, "that Serena needs to make other arrangements. There are facilities for people in her condition, places with proper equipment, trained staff. It's better for everyone. Especially better for us," Derek muttered, and they all laughed. They laughed. That's when I rolled my wheelchair to the doorway, making just enough noise that they knew I'd heard everything. 3 pairs of eyes turned to me, and I watched the calculation happen in real time. Not guilt, not shame, just the cold math of whether it was easier to pretend I hadn't heard or to commit to the cruelty. Eleanor chose commitment. She always did have conviction, I'll give her that. "Serena, darling," she said, her voice dripping with false warmth that curdled in the air. "We were just discussing your situation." "My situation," I repeated flatly. "Is that what we're calling it?" "Don't be dramatic," Derek cut in, already moving toward the stairs like he couldn't wait to escape. "You know what she means. This house isn't set up for someone who can't walk. It's not about you, it's about logistics." "Right, logistics." I looked at my mother, really looked at her, seeing for perhaps the first time the perfectly made-up face of a stranger. "How long have you been planning this? Since the accident? Since the hospital? Or was it earlier, when you realized your daughter's career made her more interesting than you at dinner parties?" "How dare you?" Eleanor hissed, her composure cracking just enough to show the ugliness beneath. "After everything we've done for you, the sacrifices we've made." "What sacrifices?" The question came out sharper than I intended, but I was past caring. The ones where I paid off Derek's gambling debts? Or when I took a year off to help care for Dad when he had his heart attack? Or maybe the times I funded your little investments that never quite panned out? "Tell me, Mother, which sacrifices are we talking about?" Derek's face went red. "That was different. We're family. Family helps each other." "Exactly," I said softly. "Family helps each other. So, where's my help now?" The silence that followed was devastating. My father looked at his shoes. Derek fidgeted with his phone. Eleanor straightened her spine and delivered the killing blow with surgical precision. "The difference, Serena, is that we needed temporary help. What you need is permanent. You're disabled now. You can't contribute anymore. You're just a drain, a black hole of medical expenses and caregiving needs. We have to think practically. Derek needs space for his career advancement. We need our lives back. This isn't the past where you could swoop in and save the day. You can't even save yourself." Something inside me went very still, very cold. It was the same feeling I got at high altitude, when the oxygen was thin and every decision mattered because one wrong move meant death. Clarity. Pure, crystalline clarity. You're right, I said, and watched confusion flicker across their faces. I can't save myself from a family that sees me as garbage, but I can take myself out to the curb. What's that supposed to mean? Derek demanded. It means pack my things. I'll be gone by tonight. Eleanor actually looked relieved. Serena, let's not be hasty. We can discuss this like adults. No, I said simply. We can't, because adults who love each other don't have this conversation. You want me gone? I'm gone, but do me one favor, Derek. When you're setting up that home office, make sure you dust off those trash bags first. I'd hate for your promotion to be tainted by the memory of what you are. I rolled back to my room before any of them could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from weakness, from rage, from humiliation, from the absolute certainty that I would never, ever let them see me vulnerable again. 2 hours later, Derek came to my room with actual trash bags. He didn't speak, just started pulling my belongings off shelves, tossing them into black plastic with the care one might give to actual garbage. My certifications for wilderness survival training, my photos from summit victories, the plaque from the International Mountaineering Association, all of it went into the trash bags with the same indifferent toss. This is really how you want to do this? I asked, keeping my voice level. He shrugged. Mom's right, we need the space. You'll figure something out, you always do. That's what you're counting on, isn't it? That I'll figure it out, somewhere far away, where you don't have to see the evidence of what you've done. Jesus, you're being dramatic. It's not like we're kicking you to the streets. There are places, programs, whatever. You'll land on your feet. He paused, seeming to realize what he'd said, then laughed. Well, figuratively speaking. That's when I stopped feeling angry. Anger required caring, and I was done caring about these people. I pulled out my phone and made a single call. It was answered on the first ring. Ethan, I said quietly. I need that favor you mentioned. Today. If possible. Derek watched me with growing unease. Who's Ethan? I smiled, the kind of smile I used to give clients before leading them up a mountain they thought they couldn't climb. Someone who knows what loyalty means. You wouldn't understand. An hour later, a sleek black vehicle pulled up outside. Not a taxi, not an ambulance. A luxury accessible van with hydraulic lifts and leather interior that probably cost more than Derek's car. Ethan Thorne stepped out, 6 feet of calm confidence in an impeccably tailored suit, and the entire energy of the house shifted. My mother appeared as if summoned, her social instincts recognizing expensive when she saw it. Can we help you? I'm here for Serena, Ethan said, his voice carrying the easy authority of someone used to being obeyed. Everything's ready for her. Ready? Eleanor's eyes darted between us. I'm sorry, who are you? Ethan Thorne, CEO of Apex Adventures. He said it like it meant something. To anyone in the outdoor adventure industry, it did. Apex was the premier name in extreme sports and adventure tourism, with a value in the billions. We've been working with Serena on a project. When I heard about her situation, I made sure proper accommodations were arranged. I watched my family's faces cycle through confusion, recognition, and growing horror as the implications sank in. Derek's promotion suddenly seemed very small. Eleanor's carefully maintained social standing suddenly seemed very fragile. My father, to his minimal credit, just looked sad. Serena? My mother tried, her voice taking on that sugary quality she used when she wanted something. Sweetheart, we should talk about this. We're done talking, I said, letting Ethan help me toward the van. The ease with which he handled my wheelchair, the practiced competence, made it clear this wasn't his first time dealing with accessibility needs. But thank you for the lesson, Mother. You taught me exactly who I can count on. It's a very short list, and none of you are on it. As the van door closed behind me, I saw our neighbors gathering on their lawns, drawn by the unusual spectacle. Mrs. Patterson from next door, who played bridge with my mother every Thursday. The Johnsons, who always attended our family barbecues. They were all watching, and I knew by tomorrow the whole neighborhood would know that Eleanor Vance's disabled daughter had been picked up by a billionaire CEO while her family stood on the lawn looking lost. Are you okay? Ethan asked as we pulled away. I will be, I said. Show me the penthouse. The penthouse was everything my family's house wasn't. Modern, accessible, and designed for someone who refused to see disability as defeat. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Wide doorways and halls meant for wheelchairs. A gym space already equipped with physical therapy equipment that made the hospital's setup look primitive. Ethan had thought of everything. The contract we discussed before your accident, he said, pulling out a folder. I still want to move forward, more than ever, actually. The project we talked about, the Adaptive Adventure Program, it's perfect timing. People need to see what's possible. I looked at the papers. The numbers were staggering. 7 figures for my consultancy, equity in the program, my name attached to something revolutionary. When? I asked. We start development immediately. Launch in 3 months. But Serena, you need to focus on physical therapy first. The doctor said I might walk again. I'm going to make sure that might becomes will. Give me the PT schedule. The most aggressive one you have. He studied me for a long moment. You're angry. I'm motivated, I corrected. There's a difference. Is there? I smiled. The first genuine smile in weeks. No, but angry is such an ugly word. Let's call it focused. The next 3 months were a study in transformation. Every morning at 5, I was in the gym with Marcus, a physical therapist who'd worked with Paralympic athletes. He was brutal, demanding, and exactly what I needed. Where the hospital had been cautious, Marcus was aggressive. Where my family had seen limitations, he saw potential. Again, he'd say, when I wanted to quit. I can't, I'd gasp, muscles screaming. Then fail, trying. So I tried, and tried, and tried. The wheelchair became a walker. The walker became crutches. The crutches became a cane. And slowly, agonizingly, the cane became nothing at all. During the day, I worked with Ethan's team on Overcome and Conquer, the adaptive adventure program that would change everything. We designed specialized equipment, developed training protocols, recruited staff who understood that disability didn't mean inability. Every meeting, every decision, I poured myself into it. My family tried to reach out, of course. The first messages were tentatively apologetic. Serena, honey, we miss you, come home. My mother, hey sis, sorry things got heated, we're family, right? Derek, I blocked their numbers. But Sarah, my oldest friend who still lived in the old neighborhood, kept me updated on the gossip despite my protests. Your mom told everyone you're at a special recovery facility, Sarah said during one of her visits to the penthouse. She's acting like she's so brave, dealing with her daughter's tragedy. The whole neighborhood thinks she's Mother of the Year. Of course she is, I said, not looking up from the program proposal I was reviewing. She's always been good at performance. Derek's throwing a huge party next month, celebrating his promotion. Your mom's inviting everyone, showing off. Are you going to let them get away with this? I set down my papers and looked at Sarah, really looked at her. Do you know what date that party is? The 15th. Why? Perfect timing, I said. Tell me, Sarah, do you want to see something amazing? Always. Then make sure you're watching the news that day. National news, around noon. Sarah's eyes widened. Serena, what did you do? Not what I did, what I'm going to do. And Sarah, when people ask you about my family after that, I want you to tell them the truth. All of it. She nodded slowly. They're going to hate you for this. They already hate me, I pointed out. The only difference is now the feeling's mutual. But I'm not doing this for hate, Sarah. I'm doing it so that every person who's ever been called a burden, every person who's been thrown away for being inconvenient, knows they're worth more than the people who couldn't see it. The media strategy was Ethan's idea, but I made it personal. We coordinated with every major network, every influential magazine, every platform that mattered. The story was irresistible. Decorated survival expert paralyzed in climbing accident, abandoned by family, rises to create groundbreaking program that would help thousands of people with disabilities access adventure sports. It had everything: tragedy, triumph, betrayal, redemption. The interviews were scheduled for the morning of the 15th. Derek's party was set for that evening. I woke up that day feeling calm. I dressed carefully in a power suit that Eleanor would have approved of, if she'd had the chance to see it. I did my makeup with precision. I practiced walking without the cane, just to prove to myself I could. The first interview was with Good Morning America. I sat in the studio, feeling the weight of the moment, and told my story. Not all of it, just enough. After the accident, I thought my life was over, I said, looking directly into the camera. I thought being in a wheelchair meant being helpless. And the people around me reinforced that belief. They made me feel like a burden, like someone whose value had disappeared along with my ability to walk. The host leaned in, sympathetic. That must have been incredibly difficult. It was clarifying, I corrected, because it taught me that sometimes the biggest obstacles aren't physical. They're the people who can't see past them. This program, Overcome and Conquer, it's about proving that disability doesn't define capability. We're creating adaptive adventure experiences for people with all levels of physical ability. Rock climbing, kayaking, wilderness survival, with the right equipment and training, the only limits are the ones we accept. And your family? How did they support you through this? I paused, let the silence stretch just long enough to be meaningful. My family taught me the most valuable lesson of all, that sometimes you have to build your own support system. That blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and that true strength comes from refusing to accept other people's limitations of you. It was subtle enough to maintain dignity, pointed enough to draw blood. The interview went viral within an hour. By the time the afternoon news cycle hit, my story was everywhere. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, local stations, national papers, online media. The headlines were everything I'd hoped for. Survival expert turns personal tragedy into mission of hope. Abandoned and disabled, she built an empire. When family failed, she found her true strength. The Apex Adventures publicity team had done their job perfectly. Images of me in my wheelchair, strong and composed, footage of me testing adaptive climbing equipment, the staggering investment numbers, Ethan's endorsement. It was a perfect storm of inspiration and implied scandal. My phone started buzzing incessantly. I'd unblocked my family's numbers that morning just for this. Derek. What the hell, Serena? Derek, why didn't you tell us about this? Derek, we could have helped. Eleanor. Serena, darling, we need to talk immediately. This is all a misunderstanding. Eleanor, call me, now. Richard, your mother is very upset. We saw the news. You should have told us about this program. And then, the one that made me smile. Sarah. Oh my God, Derek's boss just called him. The party is off. Everyone's talking about you. Your mom looks like she's going to throw up. This is amazing. I texted back, I'm not done yet. An hour later, Derek called. I answered on speaker, putting the phone on my desk while I continued reviewing program applications. You bitch! He snarled, all pretense of family affection gone. You absolute bitch. Do you know what you've done? I do, actually. I told the truth. Does the truth bother you, Derek? The truth? You made us look like monsters. I made you look like exactly what you are. I just gave people the information and let them draw their own conclusions. Not my fault if those conclusions are unflattering. My boss wants to see me tomorrow morning. Do you understand what that means? It means you're finally experiencing consequences? That's new for you. How does it feel? He was breathing hard, fury making him reckless. You think you're so smart. You think you've won. But you're still a cripple, Serena. You're still broken. All the money in the world doesn't change that. You're right, I said softly. All the money in the world didn't change the fact that I was temporarily injured. But you know what did change? My understanding of family. My boundaries. My willingness to tolerate people who see me as less than human. Thanks for that lesson, brother. It was worth every penny of the debt I paid off for you. I hung up before he could respond. My mother tried a different tactic. Her message came through as a voice note, quavering and theatrical. Serena, sweetheart, please. We made mistakes. We were scared, overwhelmed. We didn't know what to do. You have to understand, we're not young anymore. We didn't know how to handle a wheelchair, the medical equipment. We panicked. But we're your family. We love you. Please, let's talk about this like adults. Come home. We can fix this. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. The next morning, Sarah called. Derek got fired. What? Fired. His company has this whole values initiative, right? Corporate responsibility, community engagement, all that. Turns out having a senior manager who threw his disabled sister out of the house doesn't fit the image. They called it conduct unbecoming or something. He's out. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. And the party? Cancelled, obviously. Your mom told everyone she was sick, but nobody's buying it. The whole neighborhood knows. Mrs. Patterson came by yesterday asking if I thought you'd be willing to speak at her charity luncheon about disability awareness. The irony is incredible. Tell her I'll think about it, I said. After I'm done thinking about how to handle my family. Are you going to see them? Eventually, on my terms. That eventually came a week later, when they showed up at my penthouse unannounced. The doorman called up apologetic. There are 3 people here claiming to be your family, Miss Vance. Should I send them away? I looked around my apartment, my sanctuary, the life I'd built from nothing. Then I thought about closure, about the importance of ending stories properly. Send them up, I said, but tell them they have 15 minutes. I stayed seated when they arrived, not out of necessity but out of choice. I'd been walking without assistance for 2 weeks, but they didn't need to know that yet. They looked terrible. Eleanor's perfectly maintained appearance had cracks in it, her makeup not quite hiding the strain around her eyes. Derek looked like he'd aged 5 years, his usual cockiness replaced by something desperate. My father just looked old. Thank you for seeing us, Eleanor began, trying to take charge of the situation like she always did. I didn't do it for you, I interrupted. I did it because I have things to say, and I'd rather say them once than have this conversation drag out. Serena, please. She moved to sit, then hesitated, realizing I hadn't invited her to. We made a mistake. A terrible mistake. We were wrong. You were... I agreed. You were wrong about a lot of things. Wrong about what I needed. Wrong about what I could do. Wrong about who I am. But most of all, you were wrong about what family means. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Look, I lost my job. Mom and Dad are social pariahs. Haven't we been punished enough? Punished? I let the word hang in the air. This isn't punishment, Derek. This is consequence. You made choices. You threw me away when I needed you most. You called me garbage, literally put my achievements in trash bags, and laughed about it. Those were your choices. What happened after is just the natural result. We didn't know about the program, my father said quietly. About the money. If we'd known. If you'd known, you would have what? Kept me around? Pretended to care because I was profitable again? That's supposed to make it better? I shook my head. The fact that you think money is the relevant factor here tells me everything I need to know. Eleanor's composure finally cracked. What do you want from us, Serena? We've apologized. We've admitted we were wrong. We've suffered. What more can we do? I stood up then, slowly, deliberately, watching their eyes widen as they realized I was walking without support, without pain, without any sign of the injury that had been their excuse to throw me away. I want you to understand something, I said, walking to the window, looking out at the city spread below us. When you threw me out, I was at my lowest point. I was scared, in pain, uncertain about my future. And instead of supporting me, you made me feel worthless. You made me believe that my value as a person was tied to my physical capabilities. I turned back to face them. But you were wrong. My value isn't in what I can do. It's in who I am. And who I am is someone who survived despite you, not because of you. Someone who built something meaningful while you were worrying about dinner party gossip and home office space. So, there's nothing we can do? Derek asked, and for the first time I heard something like genuine regret in his voice. No way to make this right? Make it right? I walked to my desk, pulled out a folder. You can't make it right, Derek, but you can do better. This is information about overcome and conquer. Read it. Really read it. Learn something about what disability actually means, about the strength it takes to navigate a world that wasn't built for you. Maybe donate, anonymously of course. I wouldn't want to taint the program with your names. I handed Eleanor a card. This is my therapist's contact information. You might want to make an appointment, figure out why you value appearances more than people. Why you're so afraid of anything that doesn't fit your perfect picture, that you'd rather throw away your daughter than adjust the frame. And you? My father asked. What are you going to do? I'm going to live my life, I said simply. I'm going to run a program that helps people discover their strength. I'm going to climb mountains again, literally and figuratively. I'm going to surround myself with people who see my value, who choose to be there not because they have to, but because they want to. And us? Eleanor whispered. You're going to have to live with your choices. All of them. You're going to have to explain to people at the country club why you're not involved in your successful daughter's life. You're going to have to see my face on magazines and news programs and know that you could have been part of that story, but you chose not to be. And Derek, you're going to have to find a new job and hope your next boss doesn't Google you and find all those articles about the man who abandoned his disabled sister. I walked to the door, held it open. Your 15 minutes are up. They filed out slowly, Eleanor trying one last time. Serena, we're still your family. No, I said gently but firmly. You're the people I'm related to. Family is something you earn, and you lost that privilege when you decided I wasn't worth the inconvenience. After they left, I stood at the window for a long time, watching the city lights begin to twinkle as evening fell. Sarah texted me. Did they come by? Are you okay? I typed back. They came. They left. I'm better than okay. I'm free. And I was. Free from the weight of their expectations, their limitations, their narrow view of what made a person valuable. Free from the need for their approval, their love, their acceptance. Ethan called that evening. The program launches in 2 weeks. Are you ready? I've been ready since the day they threw me out, I said. Let's change some lives. Already changing them, he said. We've got over 1,000 applications for the first session. People from all over the country who heard your story and wanted to be part of it. It's not about my story, I protested. Yes, it is, he countered. But not just the part about being abandoned. It's about what you did after. How you took that moment of absolute betrayal and turned it into something that helps people. That's the story, Serena. That's what inspires people. After we hung up, I pulled out my journal, something my therapist had suggested during those early dark days. I flipped to the entry from the day of the accident, the day everything changed. I don't know who I am if I can't climb. I'd written, I don't know what I'm worth if I can't do the things that made me special. Below it, I wrote a new entry. Today, I realized that I was asking the wrong question. It's not about what I'm worth to other people. It's about what I know I'm worth to myself. And that worth doesn't change because my circumstances did. I am valuable because I exist, because I try, because I refuse to accept that broken means finished. My family couldn't see that. But I can. And now I'm going to spend the rest of my life helping other people see it too. They threw me away when they thought I was at my weakest. They never realized that rock bottom is just another place to start climbing, and I've always been good at climbing. The program launch was everything I'd hoped for and more. We started with 50 participants, all with varying levels of physical ability, all with the same hunger to prove that their disabilities didn't define their limits. Watching them tackle adaptive rock walls, navigate wilderness courses, learn survival skills they'd been told were impossible for them, I finally understood what I'd been building toward. This wasn't about revenge. It never really was. It was about transformation, about taking the worst moment of my life and using it to fuel something beautiful. My family tried to reach out a few more times over the following months. I never responded. Sarah told me Derek eventually found another job, though not as prestigious as the one he'd lost. Eleanor and Richard moved to a smaller house in a quieter neighborhood, away from the whispers and the knowing looks. They told people I was too busy with my important work to visit. In a way, they were right. I was busy building a life worth living. Busy proving that being discarded doesn't mean being defeated. Busy showing the world that the people who underestimate you often reveal more about their own limitations than yours. A year after that terrible day when they threw my things in trash bags, I received an invitation to speak at a national disability advocacy conference. The keynote address, with a speaking fee that made me laugh out loud. As I prepared my speech, I found myself thinking about that moment, about the shock and pain and absolute certainty that my life was over. I'd been so wrong. My life wasn't over. It was just beginning. The real me, the strong me, the me that didn't need anyone's permission to be valuable. That Serena was born in the moment my family threw me away, and she was magnificent. Standing on that stage, looking out at thousands of faces, I spoke from the heart. People ask me if I'm angry at my family for what they did. The truth is, I'm grateful. They gave me the greatest gift possible. They showed me exactly who I am when everything else is stripped away. They showed me that my worth isn't conditional on my physical ability, my usefulness, or my compliance with other people's expectations. They showed me that I don't need their validation to be whole. Being thrown away when I was at my most vulnerable should have destroyed me. Instead, it rebuilt me into someone stronger, clearer, more purposeful than I ever was before. So to everyone who's ever been told they're a burden, who's ever been made to feel less than human because of their circumstances, I want you to hear this. The people who can't see your value are telling you everything about themselves and nothing about you. You are not a burden. You are not broken. You are not finished. You're just getting started. And sometimes, being pushed out of the nest is exactly what you need to remember that you can fly. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, person after person came up to share their stories, their struggles, their triumphs. Many of them cried. A few of them hugged me. All of them thanked me for giving voice to something they'd felt but couldn't express. As I left the conference that night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from my mother. I watched your speech online. You were right about everything. I'm sorry isn't enough, but it's all I have. I hope someday you can forgive us. I looked at the message for a long time, feeling nothing but a distant sort of pity. Then I deleted it and blocked the number. Forgiveness wasn't something they'd earned, and it wasn't something I needed to give to move forward. I'd already moved forward. I'd already built a life so full and rich and meaningful that their presence or absence didn't matter anymore. That was the real victory. Not making them suffer, though they had. Not proving them wrong, though I had. The real victory was in no longer needing them to understand what they'd done, no longer caring whether they ever grasped the magnitude of their betrayal. I'd started this journey convinced I needed to make them see, make them understand, make them hurt the way they'd hurt me. But in the end, I realized the best revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was building a life so incredible, so purposeful, so full of genuine connection and meaning that their rejection became irrelevant. They'd thrown me away thinking I was garbage. Instead, they'd given me the freedom to become everything I was meant to be, without the weight of their expectations or limitations holding me down. Walking to my car that night, I thought about all the mountains I still wanted to climb, all the people I wanted to help, all the adventures still waiting. My legs were strong, my spirit was stronger, and my future was entirely my own. They'd meant to break me. Instead, they'd set me free. And that, more than any revenge I could have planned, was the sweetest victory of all. 3 months after the conference, I received a call from an unexpected source. The number showed up as the law office I'd hired to investigate Derek's financial dealings. I'd almost forgotten about that, so consumed had I been with building the program and moving forward. "Miss Vance," the lawyer said, her voice professionally neutral but with an undercurrent of satisfaction. "I wanted to update you on the investigation you requested. We found some interesting discrepancies." "Go on," I said, setting down the equipment manifest I'd been reviewing for our expansion into adaptive kayaking. "Your brother Derek has been systematically siphoning money from a trust fund your grandmother established. The one that was supposed to be split between you and him when you both turned 30. He's been the trustee since your father handed over management 3 years ago, and he's been making unauthorized withdrawals, substantial ones." I felt my stomach tighten. "How much?" "Approximately $200,000, your half. He's been falsifying documents, claiming the money was being used for shared family expenses and your medical care after the accident. But the paper trail shows it went into his personal accounts and was used for gambling debts, luxury purchases, and what appears to be a failed cryptocurrency investment. The irony was almost funny. Almost. What are my options? Criminal prosecution for embezzlement and fraud, civil suit for recovery of funds plus damages, or we can approach him privately with the evidence and offer a settlement to avoid public scandal. Given his current employment situation and your family's already damaged reputation, I suspect he'd be motivated to settle quietly. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. No settlement. File the lawsuit. Make it public. Miss Vance, I should warn you that this will create significant family conflict. There is no family, I interrupted. There are just people I'm related to who keep proving they're not worth my mercy. File the paperwork. I want this on the record. I want everyone to know exactly what he did. Understood. I'll begin proceedings immediately. After I hung up, I sat in my office overlooking the city and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about the money. The program was profitable beyond my wildest expectations, and Ethan had offered me a full partnership in Apex Adventures. I didn't need the $200,000 Derek had stolen. But I needed him to face consequences, real ones, the kind that couldn't be smoothed over with excuses or Eleanor's social manipulation. I needed the world to see him for exactly what he was. Sarah called me that evening, her voice tight with barely contained excitement. Okay, you have to tell me what's happening. Derek just called my husband in a complete panic. Something about lawyers and lawsuits and you? He stole from me, I said simply. A lot. For years. I found out and now he's going to pay it back. With interest. And penalties. And a public record of exactly what he did. Oh my God, Serena, this is going to destroy them. They destroyed themselves, I corrected. I'm just making sure everyone can see the rubble clearly. Your mom is going to lose it. She's already barely holding on socially. This will be the final nail. Good, I said, and meant it. Maybe it'll teach her that reputation built on lies always crumbles eventually. Maybe it'll teach her that actions have consequences. Or maybe she'll learn nothing, which seems more likely. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. The lawsuit made local news first, then gained traction nationally because of my visibility from the program. The headlines were delicious. Survival expert's brother sued for embezzlement, stole $200 kelvins from trust fund. Derek Vance, accused of defrauding disabled sister. After abandonment, more betrayal, family drama continues for overcome and conquer founder. Derek tried to call me 47 times in 3 days. I answered on the 48th call, mostly because I was curious what he could possibly have to say. You're actually going through with this, he said, his voice hoarse. You're actually destroying me. I'm holding you accountable, I said calmly. There's a difference. You stole from me, Derek. You stole from me and then threw me out when I needed help. You don't get to play victim now. It was supposed to be a loan. I was going to pay it back when the investments paid off. It wasn't your money to loan yourself. It was theft. And you know what the really pathetic part is? If you just asked me, back when we were still family, I probably would have helped you. But you didn't ask. You stole. And then you threw me away when I was at my lowest because you needed my bedroom for an office. I made mistakes. Haven't I suffered enough? I lost my job, my reputation, everything. You lost those things because of your own actions, I said. I didn't make you steal. I didn't make you abandon me. I didn't make you cruel. You did all of that yourself. I'm just making sure you face the consequences instead of sliding by like you always have. Mom's in the hospital, he said suddenly. Stress-induced heart palpitations. Dad's barely functioning. You're killing them, Serena. Is this really what you want? I felt a flicker of something. Not guilt. Not exactly. More like the ghost of who I used to be. The girl who would have immediately backed down at the mention of family medical issues, who would have swallowed her hurt to keep the peace. Derek, I said softly, do you remember what Mom said to me that day? The day you threw my things in trash bags? She said I was a black hole of medical expenses, that I was a drain, that I was useless. Do you remember what you said? He was silent. You laughed, I continued. You laughed about it. So no, I don't particularly care if she's stressed. She'll survive. She always does. But Derek, here's what I want you to understand. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because it's right, because theft is wrong, because someone needs to hold you accountable. If that hurts, well, maybe that'll teach you something. I'll fight this, he said, but there was no strength in it. You should, I agreed. Hire the best lawyer you can afford. Which, now that you're unemployed and being sued, probably won't be very good. But you should try. Who knows, maybe you'll find some sympathy. Maybe a jury will believe that stealing from your disabled sister was somehow justified. Good luck with that. I hung up before he could respond. Ethan came by that evening with Thai food and expensive wine. We'd developed an easy friendship over the months, built on mutual respect and shared vision. He was one of the few people who'd seen me at my absolute worst and never once treated me like I was fragile. "You're all over the news again," he said, unpacking containers. "The board wants to know if this is going to impact the program." "Is it?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Applications are up 30% since the lawsuit news broke. Apparently people love a woman who doesn't take garbage from anyone. The headline, "She overcame disability, now she's overcoming her family," is trending. I had to laugh. "That's terrible." "It's perfect," he corrected. "You're the face of not accepting less than you deserve, of demanding accountability, of refusing to be diminished. That's powerful, Serena. That's exactly what people need to see." "I just wanted him to face consequences," I said. "I didn't plan for it to become a movement." "The best movements are never planned," Ethan said. "They're just authentic people being authentically done with nonsense. You're authentically done with your family's nonsense. People relate to that." We ate in comfortable silence for a while before he spoke again. "Have you thought about what happens if you win the lawsuit? What you'll do with the money?" "Donate it," I said immediately. "To programs for people escaping abusive family situations, to disability advocacy organizations, to anything that helps people who've been made to feel worthless by the people who were supposed to love them." "That'll make headlines too," he observed. "Good. Maybe it'll inspire other people to stop accepting mistreatment from family just because they're family. Blood relation doesn't give anyone the right to abuse you, neglect you, or steal from you." "You've become quite the philosopher," he said with a smile. "I've become someone who's tired of watching people suffer because they think they owe loyalty to people who've never been loyal to them. Family isn't destiny, Ethan. It's not a prison sentence. It's supposed to be chosen, every day, through love and respect and basic decency. And if it's not that, then it's just people you happen to share DNA with. Nothing more." 6 weeks later, the case went to mediation. My lawyer called with the update. He's offering to settle for the full amount plus 20% interest. He'll also sign a statement admitting to the unauthorized withdrawals and apologizing. "No settlement," I said. "I want this to go to court." "Miss Vance, I should advise you that going to trial means more publicity, more family drama, more stress. I know what it means, and I know he's only offering to settle because he knows he'll lose in court. I want the public record. I want the verdict. I want every single detail of what he did entered into evidence and made available to anyone who searches his name. No settlement." "Understood. I'll inform them we're proceeding to trial." The trial was set for 2 months later. In that time, the program continued to grow exponentially. We'd expanded to 12 locations across the country. I'd hired a staff of 200. We'd helped over 3,000 people with disabilities experience adventure sports they'd been told were impossible. The success was overwhelming and deeply satisfying. But the real victory came in the stories. The emails from participants telling me they'd stood up to family members who'd been dismissive of their abilities. The messages from people who'd finally set boundaries with toxic relatives. The letters from individuals who'd found the courage to leave situations where they were undervalued and disrespected. I'd accidentally become a symbol for something larger than myself. Something about refusing to accept diminishment, about demanding to be seen and valued, about walking away from people who couldn't appreciate you. Sarah visited the week before the trial, bringing coffee and gossip as always. "Your mom tried to talk to me yesterday. She wanted me to convince you to drop the lawsuit." "What did you say?" "I told her that maybe if she'd wanted influence over your decisions, she shouldn't have thrown you out when you needed her most. She didn't like that." "I imagine not." I took a sip of coffee. "How did she look?" "Old," Sarah said bluntly. "Tired. Defeated. She's aged 10 years in the last year and a half. Derek looks worse. He's living in their basement now. Did you know that?" I hadn't known, but I wasn't surprised. Poetic justice. The man who needed my bedroom for his home office is now in his parents' basement. "Your dad asked me to give you a message." I tensed. "What message?" "He said he's sorry. He said he was a coward who let his wife and son bully you, and he'll regret it for the rest of his life. He said he doesn't expect forgiveness, but he wanted you to know that he's proud of what you've built, and he understands why you're doing what you're doing." Something in my chest tightened. Of all of them, my father's betrayal had hurt the most because it had been passive. He'd simply allowed it to happen, had simply stood by while they destroyed me. Active cruelty I could understand. Passive enablement felt worse somehow. "Tell him," I said slowly, "that sorry doesn't fix anything. But acknowledgement is a start. Tell him I appreciate the honesty, even if it's too late for it to matter." The trial lasted 3 days. Derek's lawyer tried to paint him as a victim of circumstance, stressed about family obligations, struggling with financial pressures. My lawyer systematically destroyed that narrative with bank records, withdrawal documentation, and testimony from financial experts about the deliberate nature of the fraud. I testified on the second day. Sitting in that witness box, looking at Derek across the courtroom, I felt nothing but tired resolve. "Can you describe your relationship with your brother before the accident?" My lawyer asked. "I thought we were close," I said honestly. "I thought family meant we'd support each other. I was wrong." "And after the accident?" After the accident, I learned that his love was conditional on my usefulness. When I couldn't be useful anymore, I became disposable. Objection. Derek's lawyer stood. This is inflammatory and not relevant to the financial matter at hand. Your Honor, my lawyer responded smoothly, it goes to the defendant's character and his pattern of behavior toward the plaintiff. The context matters. I'll allow it, the judge said. Continue. I told them everything. The trash bags, the laughter, the complete lack of empathy or support. And then I told them about discovering the theft, about learning that while I was struggling to walk again, my brother had been stealing from me. How did that make you feel? My lawyer asked. Like I'd been a fool, I said. For years I'd helped him. I'd bailed him out of debts, supported him through job losses, covered his mistakes, and he repaid me by stealing from me and then throwing me away when I needed help. It made me realize that some people don't value you. They value what you can do for them, and when you can't do anything, they have no use for you. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. They found Derek guilty on all counts. The judge ordered him to repay the full amount plus interest, plus punitive damages, plus court costs. The total came to over $300,000. Derek's face went white. Eleanor sobbed in the gallery. My father just sat there, staring at his hands. I felt nothing but a quiet sense of closure. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I'd prepared a brief statement. Justice isn't about revenge, I said, reading from my notes. It's about accountability. It's about making sure that people face consequences for their actions. My brother stole from me. Today, he faced the consequences of that choice. I hope this sends a message to anyone who's being mistreated by family. You don't have to accept it. You can demand better. You can fight back. And you can win. The headlines the next day were everything I'd hoped for. Serena Vance wins lawsuit against brother. You can fight back and win. Jury awards $300 Kelvins to disability advocate defrauded by family. Victory for accountability. Serena Vance's message to abuse survivors. That evening, alone in my penthouse, I finally let myself feel everything. The satisfaction, the sadness, the relief, the grief for the family I'd wanted but never really had. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my family was dealing with the consequences of their choices. Derek was facing financial ruin. Eleanor was facing social exile. My father was facing the reality of his cowardice. And me? I was facing a future full of possibility. A business that was changing lives. A purpose that got me up every morning. A community of people who valued me for who I was, not what I could do for them. My phone buzzed. A text from one of the program participants, a woman named Jessica who'd lost both legs in a car accident and had completed her first adaptive rock climb the week before. Just saw the news. You're my hero. Thank you for showing me it's okay to demand respect, even from family, especially from family. I smiled and texted back, you're your own hero. I just helped you see what was already there. But maybe that was the point. Maybe that's what all of this had been about. Not revenge, not punishment, but showing people what was possible when you refused to accept less than you deserved. My family had thrown me away thinking I was broken. Instead, they'd given me the chance to discover I was unbreakable. They'd meant to diminish me. Instead, they'd freed me to become more than I'd ever imagined. And now, through the program, through the lawsuit, through simply living my truth loudly and unapologetically, I was helping other people discover the same thing about themselves. That was the real victory. Not the court judgment, not the public vindication, but the ripple effect of one woman refusing to accept mistreatment and inspiring thousands of others to do the same. I raised my glass to my reflection in the window. Here's to being unbreakable, I said softly, and to teaching others they are too. Outside, the city sparkled with infinite possibilities. Inside, I was finally, completely, authentically home, not in a place, but in myself, in my strength, in my refusal to be anything less than exactly who I was. They'd thrown me away, and in doing so, they'd set me free to become everything they'd never imagined I could be. That was their loss. And my greatest gain.